Duty is dead. He was shot down like a dog by the pigs. Now, we can rap for days about it, but that ain't none of our thing. We take action, and we move fast to avenge the death of one of our brothers. That's all I gotta say. And if nobody else ain't got nothing to say, then I said, let's put it to a vote.
To take the life of one of our own is heavy. We've never done it before, but then it's never been necessary. It is necessary now. Brack blew the whistle, and a member of this organization is dead. Brack must pay with his life. Our vote would kill Brack.
Jenga?
Dust the dude.
Melvin X?
Do it to him.
Freddie?
Off the brother.
Tawili?
Sock it to him.
Tuck?
Let the man breathe.
I say we bury the man.
I say you wrong.
61 says I'm right.
Just like that. And a brother is dead.
Just like that. No guts, baby? Little blood bother you? Then what is it?
Brack was scared.
I know.
And you're gonna kill him?
Yeah. This is a revolution, man. People have to die. That's what it's about. If I let Brack get away with what he did, I lose control of the organization, and I can't do that. No brother is more important than the organization. You dig it?
Hey! Hey!
So I'm here to introduce Blake McDowell again, the media archivist and conservator at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, NMAAHC, where he helps lead the preservation, conservation, and public access of the museum's time-based media collections. Sterling Warren is also here. Rhea Combs isn't, so Sterling is here instead, which is great. And he's a media artist and an applied public history fellow at NMAAHC and a graduate of Morgan State University Museum Studies and Historical Preservation. And do we have Ina? Yay, Ina! Ina is an amazing artist, filmmaker, programmer, and writer, and has shown nationally, including, and I just have to brag for you a little bit, Freeze 2021, she was a solo artist, and also studio artist at the Whitney. She's also the media conservation and digitization specialist at NMAAHC and contributes to Film Comment magazine, as well as other film periodicals. So,
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be with you today.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
Thank you, Anna. I guess I'll first just take a moment to thank the ancestors for allowing me to be here with you today, and also just in the spirit of the continued fight against oppressive systems worldwide and the eventual triumph over oppressive systems worldwide. I'm glad to be here. I have a prepared statement from Dr. Rhea Combs that I'm going to read, but first I'm going to try to weave together some disparate thoughts I've been having about some of the work I've been viewing, which has been inspiring. This is my first time at the Orphan Film Symposium. This film, Black Chariot, also I was here for Women of Suriname yesterday. You know, the Malcolm X clips, the Bethune clips that we also showed of the Pan-African movement. This phrase has been kind of bouncing around in my mind a little bit. I've just been thinking back and forth that, you know, so much has been taken. And I've been thinking about that from the past few days. So much has been taken when I look at these films amongst communities in the Americas, Black communities, Indigenous First Nation communities, communities on the African continent, in the Caribbean, across Asia. But maybe just as bad as the things that have been taken are the things that were never realized because those seeds were planted in unforgiving soil, those creative seeds in purposely unforgiving soil. I've been thinking about the term orphan a little bit and how to maybe extend that sociological metaphor. You know, what might be the proper term for the potential offspring of a lost or orphan film that never came to fruition because its influence wasn't allowed to proliferate. What do we call those? Those ghosts, you know, apparitions of potentiality, maybe something like that. It occurred to me a little bit that orphan is an affirming category, despite possible, you know, negative connotations, because to be an orphan, one must first exist. You must first, and not only exist, you must be acknowledged and recognized, corroborated. Some films will be lucky to be orphans. I think about this film in that way, Black Chariot, you know, sort of the existential politics of that, you know, studying film at Howard University. I should have had this film, you know, I should have been able to study this film's narrative and study the production strategies of this film. And I can only just hope that now, having the ability to see this film and the work of the Smithsonian, we are now in a position to give, to kind of redress that cycle of the taking. So that ends my opinions and thoughts. And now I'm going to read a prepared statement by Dr. Rhea Combs. She begins, "I'm sorry I'm not able to join you all today, but I am deeply grateful to my colleagues Blake McDowell and Ina Archer, who are able to share with you some rarely seen footage and more details from Black Chariot, a film by Robert L. Goodwin that premiered at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium in July of 1971. Until recently, this film has been considered lost. Thanks to the support of the National Film Preservation Fund and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, the feature, shot on film and video, is being restored and seen for the first time in nearly 5 decades. As the former senior curator of film and photography at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, I learned about this film's possible existence around 2017 while on a trip to Atlanta. A meeting with a close friend of the Goodwin family told me that he may know the film's location. I was excited to pursue this lead because, well, who doesn't love a treasure hunt? But also because I know this film was produced and distributed around the same time of the infamous Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, but has received a fraction of the recognition. I contacted the family friend, met with them in Los Angeles in an unoccupied apartment in Mid-City where a canister of the film sat in the unconditioned living room surrounded by another extremely rare gem, Upper Chamber, and a cache of photographs and other ephemera related to Ruby Goodwin, the filmmaker's mother and author of the 1953 memoir, It's Good to Be Black. And she was the former longtime executive assistant for actors Hattie McDaniel and, for a brief time, Ethel Waters. While there was some vinegar, some signs of vinegar decomposition, it was surprisingly in good shape, and fortunately, we have been able to connect with the family and access a range of negative clips and other elements. Robert L. Goodwin grew up in Southern California. After graduating high school in Orange County in the 1940s, he had a few bit parts in some films and in community theater. In the 1950s and 60s, he was a writer for popular shows like Julia, Bonanza, and All in the Family, to name a few. Goodwin was a true trailblazer with a rare seat at a Hollywood writer's table at a time when opportunities for black creators were extremely limited. By all accounts, Goodwin had a successful writing career, and as the only black family living in the exclusive Hollywood Hills enclave, his family often recalls they were the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Although a successful screenwriter, Goodwin longed for writing and directing movies. Black Chariot was his passion project. He wrote, directed, and produced the film. He fundraised by selling shares in the film, very similar to the likes of Oscar Micheaux and the black-owned Lincoln Motion Picture Company from the 1910s, which we'll hear more about later. Opening during a tense meeting between members of an underground black power group that leads to a stunning foot chase, Goodwin's film weaves past and present to tell the story of the social awakening of a character named Tuck. Shot on 35mm film and video, and showcasing a forceful early performance from LA Rebellion icon Barbara O. Jones, Black Chariot is a fascinatingly iconoclastic revelation, and it's a pleasure that after almost 50 years, this esteemed audience has a chance at taking a glimpse at this long-lost labor of love. And that concludes Dr. Combs' statement, and with that, I think I will pass it to my colleague, Ina Archer.
Hello. So Dr. Rhea Combs really covered the whole, or really summed up in a really great way a lot of the details that we can pull out. So there might be a little repetition with some of these thoughts, but I wanted to talk about the Goodwin family for just a moment. It's a very, very close family. And we've been very lucky to speak with family members and the close friends who are, in some sense, that kind of extended family. And this has been really one of the great parts of doing this work. As Sterling noted, Goodwin was born in California, and he's the son of poet, journalist, actor Ruby Berkeley Goodwin. And as he said, she was a personal secretary and publicist to actress Hattie McDaniel from 1936 to 1951. And she's said to have helped to write the 1940 Oscars acceptance speech that is a personal fascination of mine. And that clip of that speech and the idea that it's been, that there was writing that went into it coming from someone close to McDaniel gives it even more resonance. So if you have a chance, take a look at the Oscar speech. You can find it online. She also worked for Ethel Waters in a similar capacity. She had a ongoing article called Hollywood in Bronze and was the first accredited Black Hollywood correspondent. Her book that we mentioned, you've seen images of it, It's Good to Be Black, is a memoir of her coal mining family in Duquoin, Illinois, and it's still in publication since 1953. And so, as noted, Goodwin was one of the few, if not the only, Black writers creating materials for major studios at the time, and he wrote episodes for groundbreaking series Julia between 1968 and 1969 with Diane Carroll, Bonanza, and many others, as well as these lesser-known works in a religious theme programs, one called Insight, and he produced that he self-produced and directed and aired for a limited time on television. And so The Upper Chamber, which stars stalwarts from the Hollywood studio era, including Lou Ayres, who was a conscientious objector and whose very interesting career you can find out more of. I think of him as the young and depressed brother in the film Holiday with Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. So it's Lou Ayres, Reed Hadley, and Mr. Robert Goodwin. So you'll get to see them. So we have a clip of about 7 minutes, and I think that the film is from TV film is from 1961. And I think you'll see a lot of resonance in some of the filmmaking in Black Chariot. So we're ready for the clip.
We're going to play from the computer now.
Little late for that, Roscoe. You should have thought of that before you killed that woman.
Woman?
Yeah, that's right, woman. Was she cheating on you, Roscoe? That what it was?
I'll leave him alone, Henshaw.
Yeah, that's what it was. She was cheating.
Let him make his peace with God.
Yeah, that's right, Roscoe. You make your peace.
Thanks, Si. Thank you.
It's all right. How's your father?
He's changed. He's an old man now.
Did he preach to you?
It's like seeing him for the first time. I used to think of him as big and strong. I was always afraid of him. He used to say, spare the rod and ruin the child. The way he beat me, I'm lucky I didn't get ruined.
Yeah. Same way it was with my old lady. Always taking a swing at me.
When I was 17, I went to a dance one night. My old man tells me it's okay as long as I get in by 1. Well, I go to this dance and I meet this girl. We start talking and we're hitting it off real nice. She tells me I can take her home when the dance is over, so when it's over, we leave. Well, on the way to her home, we stop at this mold shop. Sitting there having a Coke, and all of a sudden I look up and there's my old man standing in front of me with his belt in his hand. I know what he's gonna do, so I jump to my feet. I tell him I'm going home, but he says it's too late. That's all he said, it's too late. I started to run and he knocked me down. He stood over me swinging that belt all the time yelling, it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. It's too late.
I must see Pilate. I'm told that Jesus is here.
I am Pilate. You have come too late.
I've come a long way in search of him.
Who art thou?
I am Simon of Cyrene.
What is thy business?
The elders would know of his teachings, his gospel.
Why?
We have news in Cyrene that Jesus did raise the dead, made the blind to see and the lame to walk. Our people are of little faith. We have great need of his powers.
You have traveled far in vain.
In vain?
In vain.
What noise was that?
The noise of the people. As we talk, the people take Jesus to be crucified.
But I must have counsel with him. I must talk to Jesus before I return to Cyrene.
Get
Who art thou? I am Simon of Cyrene. Stand back, let us pass.
But I must have counsel with Jesus.
Stand back. Rise and pick up your cross.
Let me have a word with him. I've come a long way.
So has he. Pick up your cross.
His flesh is weak.
Then you may carry his cross.
I? Carry his cross?
Yes. Pick it up.
I've come too late.
Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
It's the worst beating I ever had. Next day I left home, and me and the old man haven't lived under the same roof since.
Well, what kind of a sermon did he give you today?
He just sat there with his head down, not saying a word. Then he looked up, and there were tears in his eyes. He took me in his arms and kissed me. I never seen my father cry before.
Didn't he say anything?
He said, "I love you, son. I love you." Then he said, "Ask God to forgive you, son, and go like the man I know you are."
Is that all he said?
That's all.
So very sophisticated work. And the upper chamber, by the way, refers to the gas chamber of the prison. And I think this kind of imaginative, reflective flashback is something a really interesting characteristic of Goodwin's work, and that you'll see in Black Chariot. There's a lot of references to Sweetback's Badass Song that comes out concurrently with Black Chariot. But I think a film that more closely parallels Black Chariot is Jewel Dasson's film Uptight from 1968, which was co-written by actor-activist Ruby Dee. And each film shares a troubled protagonist who are not the nicest guys in the world, especially in regards to women, who are caught between larger racist social structures and radicalized political groups who are fighting against those structures. In Black Chariot, it's called The Organization, and with their afro and have their afros and their black turtlenecks. And you should note in the credits, I don't know if you had a chance to see that, there's a credit for afro styling. And in Dasson's film, they are unnamed and led by the actor Raymond St. Jacques, who bears a resemblance to Richard Elkins, the severe leader of the organization in Black Chariot. In both films, the protagonists, Tank in Uptight and Tuck in Black Chariot, has to struggle to maintain his humanity in an unjust world, but the alternatives are equally oppressive and immovable. Significantly, in Goodwin's film, religious faith is presented as a balm and the true salvation. So next we're going to see a scene with a pioneering Black actress, Pauline Myers, who's known from The Jeffersons, Cosby Show, Night Stalker, etc. A lot of television work, and also prior to that, film work, character work, and stage work. So we'll see this clip that is a reflection about her son, the character Tuck, played by Bernie, losing it, Bernie Casey. Thank you, and we'll see this kind of work by Pauline. Thanks, Blake.
So back to the computer, please.
One Sunday, when Tuck was no more than 5 years old, I took him to a big, fine white church across town. The service was real formal, and the sermon was like a lecture. Nothing like the preaching I was used to. That minister preached a whole 30 minutes, and not once did a soul get happy and shout amen. I've been to church every Sunday in my life, and I ain't never had an experience like that. That was the first time the Spirit didn't come down on me. When we was leaving that church, a white boy called Tuck out of his name. Before God got the news, Tuck had that boy down on the ground beating the devil out of him. Took all the strength I had to get Tuck off that boy. But when I got him home, I give Tuck the whooping of his life. But all the time I was whooping him, something strange was happening in me. All the time I was whooping him, I was proud of him. I was proud he was mine. But I couldn't find the words to tell him so.
Okay, and so the actor that she's appearing with is Jean Darnosky, who's also very well known from television. And so I just wanted to, you'll be seeing more of Barbara O. And I just wanted to note that Barbara O, who's very central to the LA Rebellion films, that her acting style is in contrast to Pauline Myers, who is of a slightly different generation, but they also kind of represent two sort of female characters and positions within the film. So thank you and we'll go on to see some more about the production of Black Chariot and more clips.
Okay, we're going to play one clip from Black Chariot here, and then Sterling's going to come back up and talk a bit about the fundraising that was done to make Black Chariot. So back to the computer, please.
This is a new day, brothers and sisters. This is our day.
Right on.
Soon the world will know that black is beautiful.
Say it again.
Black is beautiful. Teach. And more. Black is sensitive, aware, intelligent. But most important, black is powerful.
Get down, sister.
The man has had his day, and now we're taking over.
It's a potent film. I'm sure as you all can see, she said the sermon felt like a lecture. 30 minutes, nobody got the Holy Ghost. So part of the story of this film is how it was made, how the funds were raised to actually produce the film. And, you know, as I said, this could have been a great model for other filmmakers, and indeed has, even through its non-proliferation. Other filmmakers have followed this model, but this is one of the earliest in this era, although, you know, earlier in the century, Black filmmakers were also doing things like this. But I'm going to read from a Los Angeles Times article titled "Black Chariot is a First for Filmdom," and this was written by Nikki Wine, and this is December 13th, 1970. So she says, "For the first time in the history of the cinema, a motion picture is being financed by the very public to whom it is being directed and with whom it directly concerns itself. And the profits accrued from the venture will be, again, for the first time, returned to the public which spawned them. In a dramatic attempt to break the traditional cycle of having a white writer backed by a white studio producing an explanation of the black man aimed at the white public, Robert L. Goodwin is producing a black explanation of a black situation aimed primarily at black people, and most significantly, produced and financed with black capital. Bob Goodwin left a successful career as an actor in 1966 when he found that nothing I ever uttered on the screen was relevant to what was going on. As one of the most successful black writers in television during the last decade, he has more than 50 hours of primetime television to his credit and 3 Emmy nominations. Goodwin's desire to produce something relevant and to fulfill his personal commitment to black people and to blackness led him to a new concept in films, a concept which involves a human bank of funds solicited throughout the black communities of California. Black Chariot is the first project of Robert L. Goodwin Productions, the company which Goodwin has formed with the help of black people throughout the state of California. Shares in the company were sold to 24 partners, but that is just one part of the financial story. In order to finance this film, 44,000 shares valued at $1.25 each, at no less than 4 shares per person, or the equivalent of 4 blue chip stamp books, were solicited in black communities in the form of personal loans to Robert L. Goodwin Productions. In this way, for the first time, the man on the corner, the brother in the ghetto, has been allowed a real involvement in something which directly affects him. And not only is he being allowed a participation in something which directly concerns and involves his own existence, but this time he will benefit from it as well. And the response from these communities in the form of hard-earned dollars, precious blue chip stamps, and notes of encouragement and good wishes has been overwhelming. The projected budget for the film was $100,000, and while the company has not yet realized that amount, Goodwin explains that production did not begin until sufficient funds were acquired to ensure that nothing would need to be deferred. Solicitation of additional funds to reach the $100,000 will continue through January, but in the meantime, more than 30 minutes of completed film are already in the can, and the premiere for the film is scheduled for February. I'll pass it back to Blake.
Okay, I'm just gonna put back to this clip thing. So, when Black Chariot was acquired by the museum, it came in many elements. Video, a 35 millimeter print that we thought we'd be able to use for the preservation, but it was both color stock and black and white stock, and the black and white stock had unfortunately gone to pot. So we were in a bind there for a minute, and then on a good tip from a friend named Brian Block, got in touch with Technicolor, who had acquired all of Consolidated Film Industries holdings back in the day, and it turned out that they indeed did have a negative of Black Chariot that had been sitting there since 1971. So we got that, thinking perhaps it might be the camera original negatives, because we hadn't really looked at much of the film at that point. It wasn't. It was essentially a dupe neg of the print we had, we believe, and then going through the negative, we realized just how much of the film had been shot on video. Probably at least 80% of the film was shot on video, with a good 30% of that shot on black and white video, for aesthetic reasons and narrative reasons. But knowing that, we really had to adjust some of our expectations for the preservation, because the roughly 10 minutes that were shot on 35 millimeter film have just a very distinct and different and, quote unquote, better look than the majority of the film, both indoor and outdoor, that is shot on video. So along with that, we also had several different cuts of the film. We had a 2-inch that didn't have all the music and had the scenes in different order. We had a 1-inch that was just unusable in any sense, because it just looked so awful. These various different negatives, different maybe work prints. So we were unclear if there was an actual final version of the film that had been made, but we're able to talk with Deborah Robbins, who was a close friend of Robert Goodwin's and donated some of the material, as well as Robert Goodwin's son, Robert Goodwin Jr., who is both in the film as the character Brack and sat through 45 screenings of it in a row when it premiered in Santa Monica. So had a pretty good sense of what he remembered being in it, but also gave us the impression that perhaps the film was being somewhat edited even as it was screening. We're going to take a look here at a scene that is not going to be in the final restoration, but you can see sort of some of the things we were dealing with.
Tuck, will you get some clothes on and get out of here? My Bible study group is meeting here today, and I wouldn't want any of those sisters seeing you like you look.
My word. My ladies here for the Bible study? Oh, see. Well, you just make yourselves comfortable, because this is the place. My mom will be here with you in just a minute.
Tuck, get out of here and go put some clothes on.
Sure, Mama.
I don't know what I'm gonna do about that boy.
It was not in the final version of the film.
This younger generation ain't got no respect for nothing, Sister Grace. The church, the family, nothing.
That's the gospel truth, Sister Sarah. Just like my Henry was, God rest his soul. You know what's wrong with this younger generation, Sister Sarah? They're destructive.
You can say that again, Sister Grace. They won't be happy till they've torn this world asunder.
And you can keep rolling. This is a silent section. Well, the version we have is silent because we haven't matched up the audio with the film. Yeah, but this is a section that was shot on 35 millimeter. So, yeah, you just get a sense of, and especially once this is scanned at 4K, of just the difference in quality that we're going to be dealing with in the film. That is also just very much part of its production. So, yeah, also just a great. And then finally, here is, I'll just pause that for 1 second. This is a scene of the black and white video, which you've already seen a scene of before, but thought we might just end with this scene since I know we're running short on time.
All I got, Lord. He's my only son. I tried to bring him up in the Christian way, but it ain't easy when there ain't no man in the house. By the time he was 12, he was a head taller than me. And his mind was in the streets.
Mama.
Mama's right here, Tuck. Right by your side.
Mama.
What is it, baby?
Go fuck yourself.
My baby didn't mean that. He's talking out of his head.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have time for Q&A, but thanks to everyone, and we're happy to talk about anything about Black Chariot or Robert Goodwin, talk more about the preservation we're doing, and hope you can all see the premiere sometime soon.
Okay.
Oh, what?